Thank you, choir. I know it's unorthodox for a you to do this, say this, but I did want to shout amen after their amen during their song. The Soul Matters theme for the month is the practice of repair. And I cannot think of a timelier theme that could have been given us than that. And I would also say that that phrase, the practice of repair, acknowledges that in life there is a need for repair, that we are not perfect, that we clash, we differ, we disagree on many levels of our lives continually, and there has to be a way to restore balance, to come back together. And I also note the phrase says the practice of repair, as though it's not just one thing or one gesture, but it is a complex set of commitments and actions, a practice. And we are indeed, as a society, in need of, at every level, the practice of repair. Research from the Pew Research Center indicates the situation that we are in, that it's not that we have political differences, we always have, but that we have reached a state of demonizing those who are different from us, and taken that on almost as a perpetual mind state, and othering people and seeing other people as beneath humanity or subhuman is the initial step towards violence or the justification of violence. The Pew Research Center asked people who governs in an honest and ethical way. And what they found out is that in our country currently, people of both parties look at the other party and say, to a very high degree, very few of that group over there governs ethically. 3/4 of Republicans say Democrats are more immoral than other Americans, and smaller majorities of Democrats characterize Republicans as more immoral, 63%. That's a strong word. Not just wrong in their thinking, but immoral. Immoral. That is the route towards dehumanization. 60 years ago, LBJ, President Johnson, during his presidency, 70% of Democrats, his own party, approved of his handling of the job, and 40% of Republicans approved of his handling of the job. That created what is called a partisan gap of 30%. The difference between how the two groups approved or disapproved, the partisan gap. George W. Bush had a partisan gap of 58 points. That's a jump in 28 points. President Obama had a partisan gap of 67 points. The former president, who is currently running for president again, had a partisan gap of 80 points. President Biden had a partisan gap of 76 points. The trend is towards polarity. What is one of the most striking things to me is the way in which news is presented on television, radio, and especially social media. I'm old enough to remember, and I can view these through YouTube and so forth, how, let's say, 40 years ago, the commentary of the newscasters was characterized by striving to be objective and fair and balanced, genuinely. And if you compare that with what occurs daily, hourly today, the difference is shocking. And social media has just created a very, very toxic addition to the intensity of that. And people who are in their 20s and 30s and even 40s, you are inheriting that mess. And it's really quite tragic because you did nothing to help create it. The rate of political violence and the threat of political violence has also increased. The University of Chicago's Project on Security and Threats found that from 2001 to 2023, the annual number of threats against members of Congress increased fivefold, starting in 2017 and stayed consistently at that annual high every year through 2023. The targets were equally Republicans and Democrats. Their survey showed that large fractions of Americans see the politics as broken and the value of elections to solve problems inadequate, and they are willing, at least the minority, to turn to violence. Where does all this lead? Well, the Public Religion Research Institute asked in March 2021, did they agree with the following statement? Listen carefully to the following statement. Because things have gotten so far off track, true American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save the country. At that time, 2021, when they first did the survey, 15 of their respondents agreed with it, 15%. 2 years later, and researchers say that the support has grown to 25% of the American population. Researchers found that 1/3 of Republicans support violence as a means to save the country, compared with 22% of independents and 13% of Democrats. My friends, historically, the more the public in general supports, to some degree, the idea of political violence being justified, the more common actual violence occurs, even in countries considered to be mature democracies. We are living in a society right now in which these divisions are in the atmosphere. The New York Times recently reported that there is an unusual new trend of people moving deliberately to parts of the country where there's a political affiliation like them. They would not do that if people did not feel somehow unsafe by being around people of a different political persuasion. The path of divisiveness is unsustainable. A way back to civility and some degree of harmony must be found. Hence the importance of the practice of repair. The definition of repair is putting together what is torn or broken and restoring a healthy state. The question is, how do we do that? How do we, as a congregation and as individuals, move forward to the work of repair? There has been a way forward that has been demonstrated by recent events in Brazil. If we at least look at the answer to this question in terms of first what society must do. In October of 2022, Brazil, the world's fifth largest democracy, stood on the edge of the brink of political turmoil. One of the candidates, who happened to be the president at that time, who was running for re-election, began to spread unfounded claims of election fraud and disseminated disinformation aimed at galvanizing his most extreme supporters. Several generals embraced this person's conspiracy theories and voiced a willingness to support his aims. But this person lost the election, and Da Silva narrowly defeated this person and became president. 6 months later, Brazil's national political environment appeared to return to normal, but they had done certain things to help society get back there, which we must, in our own way, emulate. They were, number one, rapid and transparent election results. Number two, accountability and decisive legal action against people who were trying to destroy democracy. Number three, combating disinformation with aggressive measures. Number four, personal leadership to overcome polarization was practiced at every level, and most certainly the highest. The politics, number five, of finding a common denominator prevailed. Number six, civil society institutions and the media actively sought to reduce the risk of political violence. Together, these actions, through advocacy, information campaigns, and public appeals, helped to create a social climate where violence became less acceptable as a political tool. Scholars of society have very long noted that public commitment to democratic norms, particularly confidence in the legitimacy of elections and restraint in the use of violence to settle political disputes beyond the ballot box, are crucial foundations for a constitutional government, and that alone constrains elites who might seek to weaponize institutions for their private concerns. On a more grassroots level, religious institutions of every type, a church, synagogue, or mosque, and certainly this church, are part of the civil society institutions that must help set the tone and mood of society. There must be places in society, in our society, in any society that desires to be a democratic state. There must be places which affirm unambiguously that all human beings are part of one human family, that our destinies are linked, that we're part of one species, part of one story, and that we're all part of one larger story which encompasses us all and is nature and the universe itself. But there must be places in society where people unambiguously say, we are all part of one family, and no one is excluded from that circle. We must have institutions in society which say to people, everyone is valuable and has inherent worth and is deserving of respect and care. To me, this is exactly what Unitarian Universalism attempts to stand for, with its values of interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, equity, with love at the center. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to cultivate an understanding of human life that emphasizes our unity, although God knows we're very diverse. And our 7 principles historically attempted to do this. I do not know what is going to occur over the next week and beyond. No one does. I am optimistic. I am hopeful. I think my optimism and hope is based on facts and reality of what I am reading and understanding to be the case. But I will say that even with the most optimistic outcome, there will most probably be, in the weeks ahead, a period of difficulty, stress, uncertainty, and perhaps, in certain places, civic unrest. But whatever comes, we are prepared and we are ready. At a town hall after this service, I will discuss in greater detail what it is we are trying to do and what we are planning. But please remember this: no one is alone, no one here is alone, and together we are stronger. And together we can face any challenge or difficulty with confidence. Long ago, one of our former presidents said, in a time of great difficulty, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. It was true then, and it is most certainly true now. Let us stand for